Hi guys, Kaiser here, and welcome back to Age of Empires 2. In today's video, we've got a really exciting matchup. For the first time on the channel, we have the two new civilizations that are arriving with the most recent DLC, the one that's coming out later this month. In the blue, we have Moving Up 14 playing as the Armenians, setting up shop in the south, against, in the purple, the Ray, Thire, 7 in the purple, playing as the Georgians. We find ourselves on Nomad, which I think is a fascinating map to take a look at these two civilizations because the Armenians and the Georgians both have some really exciting, really unique features that I think are going to have an opportunity to really present themselves well on a map like Nomad. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Both players setting up their town centers and Moving Up 14, making a very cool move here, killing the boar near Purple's base, and looks like maybe harvesting some of that food for himself in order to really sabotage the early economy of Georgia, which I think is a really strong choice given the Georgian economy. We'll talk about that in just one second. One of the features of both of these civilizations that's really exciting is the existence of this guy right here, the mule cart. See, neither the Armenians nor the Georgians are allowed to build lumber camps or mining camps. Instead, they get the mule cart, which costs 100 wood as well as 20 food, but it can move around like a unit, and it lets villagers drop off wood, gold, stone, and even food from huntables like deer or boar. And I think it works really well on a map like Nomad because, you know, in a map like this, there are so many kind of scattered resources here and there. You want to move your villagers around a lot to collect different resources. So I think the mobility of the mule cart makes a lot of sense. Now, let's talk about that early economy. We're sort of framing this in mind as we have both players developing docks. It looks like Georgia's already got a dock up. Armenia on the way with his dock. Just came online. Let's talk about the early economy of these two civilizations. As you saw, Georgia gets a mule cart as soon as their town center comes online. So in most games, it's right at the start of the game. On Nomad, as soon as the first town center comes up, you get a free mule cart. What's pretty cool about that is you can use the mule cart as kind of like a scout. And I think on Nomad in particular, it's so important to be able to scout out the map. And as long as you don't send it right under the enemy town center, I mean, you know, you're able to kind of scout with safety in a way that you're not able to by scouting with early game sheep or something like that, right? So I think it's a very nice bonus for the Georgians early on. Really helps them out on a Nomad map like this. The downside, the Georgians do start the game with a free mule cart, but they also lose 50 food. They start with 50 less food, which is very difficult, I think, particularly, again, on a map like this. You're trying to get that early economy going, and that can be rough, especially when you have an Armenian villager knocking out your boar before you can ever collect him. Not fun. So I think the early economy for the Georgians can be a little bit rough. Now, as you move from the early game into the mid game, and when we start talking about the fortified church, they get a really significant economic bonus that I will talk about in a little bit. But let's stay in the early economy. Let's focus on the Armenians. Now, the Armenian eco is a little different. You don't start the game with a mule cart, but all of your mule carts are 20% cheaper. So they only cost 15 food and 80 wood instead of the usual 100 wood, 20 food. Which, again, I think is particularly useful on a map like Nomad. Resources are especially scarce. Being able to get your early economy flowing works really well for the Armenians. On top of that, your resource technologies that you get from the mule cart, so that is your lumberjack techs, your mining techs, they are 25% more effective. So that means that as you research your lumberjack and your mining techs, those guys are going to be even more effective for Armenia than for most other civilizations. And I think in the early economy, you pick up that that Dark Age or the Feudal Age lumberjack tech. That's going to be massive for the early Armenian eco. Especially, again, on Nomad, where you do see both players focusing very heavily on wood in order to get the food eco up and running via the dock. Looks to me like the Georgians have taken an early lead here with 4 fishing ships as opposed to Armenia's 1. So the food eco, I think, will be coming in rather nicely for Georgia. Armenia maybe a little bit behind there. And you do see up here at the top, Georgia does have 23 eco units compared to Armenia's 19. So that's definitely working well for the Georgian player early on. You know, as I'm looking at the situation, I was saying how, you know, Georgia losing 50 food, that definitely hurts their early economy, and it does. But maybe the fact that Georgia's going all in on wood and building fishing ships in order to get the eco going, maybe that curbs some of the negativity of that bonus. That may actually play to Georgia's strength some, so I'm pretty happy there. And take a look at this. This is what I'm talking about. This is why the mule cart is so cruel. As Armenia throws a little threat Georgia's way. You're going to die. But Georgia here, using the mule cart to sort of track along with the deer camps. Just send them over, collect the deer, and as soon as you get off deer and you want to move on to something else, we're going to see this mule cart move to a wood line or move to gold or whatever, and that's resources saved. There is a lot of economic potential with the mule cart for efficiencies, and I think that's really exciting. Not to mention on Nomad, you don't really need to worry about building a mule cart for an early lumber camp because you can just throw a town center down right beside the wood line. And I think that makes the economy for both civilizations a little bit smoother than it otherwise would be. Like with any civ, I suppose, but I think it's particularly helpful when your lumber camps, quote-unquote, cost food as well as wood. Georgia, the first civilization to move up to the feudal age. And I think we've got to credit that to the fishing ships. We've got 10 fishing ships on the high seas for Georgia. Armenia only has 5 at the moment. By the way, as we're talking about the game here, both of these players are on average about 1,000 elo, if I remember right. Georgia is about a high 900, whereas Armenia is a low 1,100, if I remember right. So just from an elo perspective, you would think Armenia might have the advantage, but this is on the PUP, and I don't know if those numbers correspond or not to the typical ladder. So I would take those numbers with a huge grain of salt, not to mention the fact that both players are playing and trying out new civilizations, which means, you know, I think it's anybody's game. Yeah, see, take a look. We got that deer camp. The deer camp mule cart just moves over to the gold and lets the economy be fluid and flexible in a way that you don't otherwise see. Likewise, one mule camp is set up shop here as Armenia going on stone early. Now that's fascinating. Not gold, but stone. Why, I wonder. Do we want to see an early castle or towers from Armenia? We'll have to keep an eye on that. As we're talking about the economy, oh wow, look at that. Okay, an early defensive tower coming up for Georgia, which makes sense. Probably wanting to block off this choke point between the two town centers. So Georgia, of course, a very defensive civilization. We'll talk about that in a second. But before we get to the military strengths of these two civs, let's just, again, kind of wrap up with talking about the mid-game economy and the other unique building that we see coming from both of these civilizations, which is the fortified church. A little bit of a note, by the way. Notice how we've got barracks, 2 barracks coming up for Armenia, which makes sense if the Armenian player is going to go with their infantry focus. They are considered an infantry and naval civilization. Another reason why Nomad might make sense. We'll talk about that in just one second. Supplies coming in for Armenia. But the fortified church is the other really exciting building that I think makes a lot of sense on a map like Nomad. The fortified church is a replacement for the monastery. It's tankier than the monastery. It has extra armor and I think a little bit of extra HP. It actually, you can garrison the fortified church with villagers and monks that can go in and hide in the fortified church. They can stay safe. And if those fortified churches are garrisoned with villagers or relics, they actually fire arrows, just like a town center does. So it's an incredible defensive structure. And on a map like Nomad, where there's the temptation to spread villagers out, to collect resources spread across the map, and sometimes leave the villagers in a vulnerable state, being able to throw down a fortified church that costs no stone and serves as kind of a mini town center for defensive purposes. I think that's a really cool bonus and makes a lot of sense on a map like this. Now let me pause right there. We'll talk about the fortified church more in a second, but Georgia moving in with fire galleys and absolutely shredding the fishing economy of moving up here. This is giving Georgia a very strong early game advantage. Right now, it's 45 ills to 43, but we've got, how many here? 7 fishing ships, 11 in total for Armenia. And if they all go down, that's a massive eco lead for the Georgian player. Man-at-Arms coming out for Armenia. Now, what's funny is that Georgia's getting the early water lead, when Armenia is actually the civilization that is a naval civ. They've got a stronger dock. They have a unique tech for their demo ships and their dromons and galleys. I think it gives them extra range, if I remember right. And also, just built into the civ, their galleys fire an extra projectile, which is only like 1 or 2 more points of damage. But even so, it makes their galleys really strong. I think Georgia maybe was wise to perhaps foresee that and go with fire galleys as the response. Fire galleys are a much better unit when there's only, a handful of ships on the water. And they seem to have really taken control of the water here. But we do see that Armenia has sort of replaced the dock down here. We'll see whether this eco gets blown up as well or not. But the fortified church. Oh no, look at this. Armenia moving in with a man-at-arm attack. And the villagers trying to repair the palisade gate open the door for the enemy soldiers to come in. I hate that. I'm paranoid about exactly this thing. That's why I always hit the lock gate button before I go to repair a gate. It's frustrating. I think that's a quality of life feature I like to see in the game. I wish that the gate would open like that. Nevertheless. Alright. It looks like Georgia has maybe repelled the assault as Georgia moves up to the castle age. Eco is stabilized for both civs at 41 villagers. We do see Eco KD is slightly favoring Georgia, but both players doing heavy damage to each other. A defensive castle coming up for the Georgian player, which makes sense. Georgia is a very defensively oriented civilization. Again, both players have the armored church. We'll watch this battle take place here as the men-at-arms doing even more damage to these villagers here, threatening the Georgian eco. Unit down. But the fortified church, I think it provides a really strong defensive option for both of these civilizations. In fact, Georgia probably could have just thrown a fortified church down right here instead of a castle. Maybe move the castle over to the hill here, which would be really cool for a reason we'll go into in a second. The Armenian fortified church is really special because the first fortified church you build as Armenia spawns a free relic. So that's an amazing economic bonus right there. You just get a trickle of gold for free just by throwing down your first fortified church. And on top of that, let's say on a map like Nomad, you see a relic like this, you pop down that church right there by the relic, you grab the relic, boom, right out of the gate, 2 relics, double the trickle. That's a really strong early economic bonus, early mid economic bonus for the Georgians, for the Armenians. The Georgians, meanwhile, their fortified churches unlock an incredible economic potential. In a circle of 10 tiles surrounding the fortified church, a radius of 10 tiles, villagers near fortified churches gain 10% work rate, so they gather from all resources 10% faster. And if I'm not mistaken, they build faster too. So What you want to do as a Georgian player is you want to spread churches all across your territory in order to get the villagers to work faster, produce faster, and just unlock a bonus that is twice as strong as the Roman economic bonus. A really cool option. And again, these churches, they're not only providing that eco bonus, but they are providing that defensive option as well, helping to keep your villagers safe from enemy raids. We do see squires coming in for Armenia, as well as infantry armor, squires, pikemen coming in. What surprises me is we don't see from Armenia one of their military bonuses, where, we'll talk about this in a second. One of their military bonuses is that they unlock infantry upgrades and age faster. So, with all of these barracks, the Armenians are able to put out long swordsmen, two-handed swordsmen in the castle age. And they could get, I want to make sure I'm getting my names right. You can get your castle age infantry like pikemen and I guess it's two-handed swordsmen. Yeah, that's available in the feudal age. And then in the imperial age units, the halberdier, the long swordsman, and the champion. There we go. Got it straight now. Those units that are imperial age units are available in the castle age. So I'm really surprised, you know, you've got all of these buildings, all these barracks, but I'm not actually seeing a push there. Instead, we're seeing both civilizations field their unique units. Let's talk about the Georgians first. The Georgian unique unit is the Monaspa. The Monaspa by itself is comparable to a knight. It's not quite as tanky. If I remember right, it has a little bit less HP and less armor, so it dies faster than a knight does, but it's also a little bit stronger than a knight. It has more attack than a knight. So it's kind of a glass cannon. But the real trick of the Monaspa is for every, I think it starts with 6. If you start with 6, kind of a combination of Monaspa or knights. If you get Monaspa or knights together in a group of 6, all the Monaspa gain +1 attack. And if it's a group of 11, all the Monaspa in that group gain 2 attack. And if it's 16, the Monaspa gain 3. If it's 21, the Monaspa gain 4. And then I think it goes up to 26. 26 combination of Knights and Monaspa. The Monaspa in that group gain 5 extra attack. So this is an incredible glass cannon unit. It does incredible amounts of damage, especially when you're able to mass them into a big ball of pain and death. And we do see them on offense, so let's go and watch these guys in action. Now you'll see right here it says 12 plus 0. I think that's capture age, not capturing the bonus. Because no, with 8 units on the field, they should have at least 1 bonus attack. Armenia throwing up a defensive castle of their own, as Georgia has a second castle. It's going to help out with Monaspa production. Here they go, blowing up infrastructure, taking out a Ville, the mule cart. Trying to... No, this is camouflage, man. That mule cart has nomad camo on. Monaspa are busy doing other things. Alright. Castle coming up. We have 15 Monaspa on the field, which again is +2 attack, on top of foraging coming in, which would be another +1. Lots of damage coming in, as Armenia is moving into the Imperial Age. Now, before we get there, let's talk about the Armenian unique unit, or one of them, the Warrior Priest, which is another unit that I think is amazing for Nomad. I'll explain why. The Warrior Priest is a unit that combines the power of a swordsman with a monk. You've got decently strong HP, you have good melee attack, your armor's not terrible, I guess it's not the best, but you know, so you've got armor, you've got good attack, you got all the strengths of an infantry unit. But you also have the healing power of a monk. And not only that, these guys can even pick up relics and drop them off in your fortified churches. And I think that bonus is especially useful on a game like on a map like Nomad, where again, the relics are all over the place, the resources are all over the place, you don't have a scout, so you're needing to build military units to scout out the field, right? Well, you set out a warrior priest, maybe these guys, they come down, they find this villager. They kill this villager, right? And then they find the relic right there. Say, listen, hey, let's grab the relic. We'll bring that back to the fortified church and improve our economy with an extra relic, right? So there's just so much flexibility that these guys bring, I think especially on a map like Nomad. Even outside of that, they're just a great unit to mix into your army because you get the healing power of a monk alongside a certain amount of defensiveness and flexibility that you otherwise don't have. Now, focusing back on the battle here. Oh, and look at that. Oh, I think I missed something really cool here. The Monaspa, who now have, by the way, a horde of 29 Monaspa, which is like the full +5. +5 strength on top of the +1 from forging. These guys swooped in, blew up Armenia's town center, and then retreated back. So you can see incredible destructive power. Now I think, and yeah, we sort of have a bird's eye caster view. You know, if we go to Armenia's point of view, you know, we see more than he does. But I want to see more damage. You should go in, use your military advantage while you've got it, and just wreck. Because moving up is in the Imperial Age, but can't really use those bonuses yet. Go in, do some damage. And yeah, this is the right play from Georgia. Now I will say, as we do see some halberdier on the field here, as powerful as these units are proving, and they are melting through even their counter here, they're doing a great job. There is, I think, a weakness. I do wish Georgia were mixing in knights into this army. Here we go. They're gonna come in here and blow up the trebuchet. That's a good play. These eco units. Oh, Armenia is just getting shredded as the Monaspa come through here. All these villagers. Start with 10. We're already down to 6, 4. Now, as the Monaspa get thinned out, they are losing some of their attack power. Down to only 23 now, so that's, what, +4. 21, 20, so that's now +3. And I think Georgia's throwing away some of the army that he's got here. That's a mistake. He should pull out. You're not, what are you attacking here? A university? Not worth it. Pull back. Yeah, now we're only down to 13. Not bad, but could be a lot better. Still, incredible economic destruction leveraged against Armenia here. It's a good move. We do see the warrior priest actually did destroy that villager in the dock, shutting down part of Georgia's naval economy, but not picking up the relic, which is a shame. That's a missed opportunity there. Now, I would say that Georgia needs to mix in knights. If you're going to go all cavalry, and that might be even a broader point, is kind of mixing up your composition. But if you are going to go all cavalry, I think Monaspa work the best when you mix them in with knights. Because I think you want a mixture of the tankier, more resilient knights with the attack power of the Monaspa. If you go all in Monaspa, you've got incredible attack power, but you also are it's easier to thin out those cavalry numbers. And I think that's kind of what we saw here in that raid. Is, you know, right now you've got 13 cavalry units, but if you had half knights and half Monaspa, you probably would have more cavalry right now. Alright, let's see. At this moment, Georgia's got 2 town centers, and Armenia has none? No town center. Yeah, undoubtedly, Georgia has the advantage right now. A little bit, I think, gun-shy. I think he needs to keep the pressure on, playing a little too defensively. Yeah, don't go down and just lose all your units to the castle, but you know, spread out around the map. Let's see. Do you even see? Go over here to this fortified church. The fortified church is not that strong. Even when it's garrisoned, it only has about half the strength of a fully garrisoned town center. So go in there, blow this thing up. And here's the big threat. Here is the big threat. While Georgia has almost triple the economy of Armenia, the Armenians recognize cavalry is the threat. And he's going in halberdier. The Armenians, of course, have a great infantry lineup. You've got all the technologies that you would ever want for an infantry civ, alongside Feriders, which is an Armenian unique tech that gives their infantry units additional HP. I think it's 40 HP if I remember right. Plus, it's either 20 or 40. Plus, it makes your warrior priests heal faster. So, going all in infantry like this, really strong. Plus, the Armenians are also starting to bring in their other unique unit, the Composite Bowman. The Composite Bowman is the Castle Age unique unit. It is, if you look at the base stats here, it's not as strong as an archer. You know, it's only got 4 base attack strength and not a lot of HP, so it looks like a weak unit. But the hidden bonus of the Composite Bowman is it ignores pierce armor. So that means in a battle against the Monaspa, those armor techs, the chain barding armor, the +2 pierce armor that Monaspa have because of the blacksmith, useless against the crossbowmen here. And we see the archers absolutely shredding these guys. I don't think that 8 crossbowmen, because these guys aren't elite, so that's 8 crossbowmen with, what do we have here? Yeah, with Bodkin arrow. I don't think they would have shredded through those guys that fast. This is a really awesome support unit, especially kind of mixing in with an infantry horde. So we've got halberdier, which is the perfect choice against Monaspa. We have warrior priests backing them up and keeping the Armenian force healed up, topped off. Any battle where a unit survives, thanks to the warrior priests, we're going to see right here. Look at this guy. Bam. It's like 4 seconds, 5 seconds, fully topped off. You're going to have a hard time thinning out Armenian numbers if they've got warrior priests. Now, right here, this moment when Georgia's on the back foot actually highlights one of their great strengths. We got this one Treb attacking this castle, and here's the shtick. The Georgians gain additional armor. I'm sorry, no, their buildings, their units take reduced damage if they are at a higher elevation. So, if this castle were built on the hill, it would take significantly less damage from the trebuchet than it is right now. I think it's built on flat ground. Georgian buildings also take reduced bonus damage from units like siege units. So, this is just going to take forever. And we've got villagers with stone here. If the villagers decide to repair, it takes fewer resources for Georgian villagers to repair buildings. So this could be going on for a while. The economy is still massively in Georgia's favor. But I think it also betrays a problem with something we see from a lot of AoE 2 players, and I don't blame Theory 7 here. I mean, this is the PUP. You want to try out the new civs and the unique unit. I get it. So I understand the temptation. But the problem is when you play something like a cavalry civ, and you think, oh, well, I'm a cavalry civ. I'm the Franks, I'm the Poles, whatever. That means I've got to play cavalry and nothing but cavalry. You have to have the flexibility to look at an opponent going all in halberdier and saying, okay, I need to look at what my other options are. It may not be my civ bonus, but I'm given crossbows for a reason, or I'm given arbalest for a reason, right? I've got infantry of my own for a reason. I've actually got to check if the Georgians even get arbalest. They get almost full blacksmith techs. They don't get arbalest, but you get crossbows with bodkin arrow. You got that for a reason. And I think that would be the perfect choice here for knocking out all 3 of these units. You need to take that superior economy and leverage that into, you know, a tech switch here. You can't just keep going Monaspa. Or if you do stay on cavalry, at the very least, don't try to fight this army head on. Instead, keep flanking your opponent, keep whittling away at his eco, keep up your superior numbers, and try to win the game that way through raiding and cutting him off at the knees. Instead, yeah, battering ram and a scorpion. Okay. Scorpion would not be a bad choice. If you could mass up scorpions, upgrade them, that would be a good choice against these units, I think. But 1 scorpion and 1 battering ram probably not going to do a lot for you. The bonus of the Composite Bowman does not work against siege units. So the battering ram still maintains its massive pierce armor bonus. At least, I think that's how it works, but I gotta admit, that guy got shredded pretty quickly. Someone in the comments, let me know if I'm mistaken on that, because that battering ram went down fast. Alright, as we see Armenia making a big push, still has a significantly weaker economy, but double the military value. And it's looking like Armenia might win this just on the basis of military momentum. Oh, here we go. 1 big push here. 9 Monaspa, which means +1 attack. Heading straight into the halberdier. And getting absolutely eliminated. The halberdier doing their job, of course. The Composite Bowman serving as a fantastic backline. And just destroying the Monaspa. You know, if it were 20 or 30 Monaspa against 5 halberdier, I could see it. You'd have that huge attack bonus just melting through the halberdier before they can do too much damage. But now that the tables are reversed, you've got to go heavy scorpion or you know, heavy onager or something like that in order to repel this. You can't keep going Monaspa. But I think he wants to keep going Monaspa. He wants to see this unique unit in action. Which is an amazing unique unit, but maybe not so much against halberdier. If we sort of zoom out and look at the broader picture, we do see that the Georgians did come down and knock out that second dock. So the water is wholly owned by Georgia. But the fishing situation has already really been cleared out up here, and so at this point you should either build fishing traps or relocate down south and get some of the fish down here. The water's really not going to be that helpful for either player at this point. The other thing to consider too, Georgia spent a lot of resources going up to the Imperial Age, but I don't think we've really seen any bonus come from that. I mean, Georgia did not try to get up a trebuchet as soon as the Imperial Age came up. I'm not seeing any Imperial Age unique upgrades. Well, I take it back. We've got Elite Monaspa, which, if you're going to go all in Monaspa, makes sense. You'd want to get that Elite upgrade. Still missing the attack upgrades, which for a glass cannon unit, say you want those upgrades. Arson coming in. Pikemen and Warrior Priests will wreck buildings even faster. Now I know the Composite Bowman bonus does not work on buildings. That part I do know. Good. This is what you want to see. Raiding attacks, drawing away the Armenian army, and trying to get some damage in. Unfortunately, too, we do have plate barding armor in for the Monaspa, so it won't help against the Composite Bowman, but against the town centers, they won't do as much damage. Although the town centers do have Bracer, which makes them stronger. Now, you may have wondered earlier, you know, the two town centers were so close to each other. Why didn't Armenia just place a fortified church right outside of the range of fire of the town center and shoot down the town center with a fortified church? The reason why is that fortified churches work just like TCs in that they have the same range as a town center, and attack upgrades upgrade the strength of a fortified church, the attack strength, but not the range. So you will never be able to outrange a TC with a fortified church. This is the second to last, the penultimate castle going down for Georgia. And with the Race 7 going all in on Monaspa, I don't see this game moving in his favor. I'm not seeing the steps needed in order to try to turn this thing around. So we're going to see, I think, one last hurrah. We've got how many knights here? We've got 20 knights. That's, again, 6, 11, 16. So that's 3. One more Monaspa would make it 21. There it is. 21 units means that we got +4 attack on top of the +1 for forging. And we also have iron casting coming in, so that's another +1 on the attack strength of the Monaspa. It's still bothering me that a warrior priest never came by to pick up this relic. I think that's a missing element of the Armenian strategy, is using the warrior priest to come by and pick up those relics. We do see, by the way, let's see. 1 relic there. And 2 relics there. So that has happened, just not with the relic I was spelling. Yeah, let's see this grand, glorious charge. Come on, we got 24 Monaspa and a Treb. He must be hoping that somehow, this time, the Monaspa will blow away this army, and then he'll be able to turn the tide with a Treb of his own. But I don't see it happening. Now, to be fair, there are 20 Halberdier on the field, but only, what is that, like 5? I think it's 4 Halberdier right here. He could try to thin out the Halberdier numbers. And here he goes. 1. Glory, come on. Now for Wrath, now for Ruin, and a Red Dawn. Go. Okay, here come the Trebs to threaten the final castle, and that has got to trigger Georgia's last great assault here. But guys, as we're watching this battle undoubtedly wind to a close, I think, what do you think of these civilizations? Which one is more exciting to you? The Georgians or the Armenians? I think the Georgians have a really cool... Pause. Let's see the fight here. Okay. You know what? The extra attack is helping. They're doing better this time than last time. A Mangonel coming in to deal with these archers. Let's see a good shot here. Yes. Great counter to the Composite Bowman is the Onager. That was good. And then the remaining 17 Halberdier came in and just wiped the floor with these final units. And that, I think, calls it. The Ray 7 calls it. GG. Which Civ is the most exciting to you? I think they both have a really cool gameplay pattern. I love Georgia's defensive cavalry focus. I think the Monaspa is a really cool, unique unit. I wouldn't go all in Monaspa against a heavy Halberdier force like this. You got to diversify your comp, but in the right situations, it's a really cool, powerful cavalry unit. And I like how, by the way, they don't compete with knights, but actually work alongside them. That's one of my favorite features of that unique unit. I like that unique unit a lot. I also think the Composite Bowman is really cool. We got to see some really good use of the Composite Bowman as well as the Warrior Priest. There's a lot of utility that the Warrior Priest brings to the table. That was really cool. The one thing we did not get to see is Armenia use their barracks and the timing attacks, being able to bring in those Castle Age guys in the Feudal Age or the Imperial Age technologies in the Castle Age. That would have been really exciting to see. And I think could have been really powerful. We didn't see that this time, but got to give credit where it's due. Armenia, well played, good game. And you know what? My hat is off to Georgia as well for getting on the PUP, trying it out. And guys, if you want to try the Georgians for yourself, you're able to do that by downloading the public update preview on your copy of Steam. All you've got to do is right-click AoE 2 in Steam, go to Properties, go to Betas, and select the October PUP. You select that, you get a little bit of a download, and you too can try out the Georgians alongside some of the other changed civilizations like the reworked Persians. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. I appreciate each and every one of you that does that. For now, this is the Iron Kaiser, signing off.